Doctor, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Njoko. Thank you for inviting me to your program.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Now, there is so much heat, so much activity leading towards the 2023 presidential election. Anybody reading the social media, anybody following even mainstream media, anybody following political groups and their activities will think that Nigeria is going to war. And so many generals are springing up. Do we need to heat up the polity, really, before we go to election?
Well, all elections tend to heat up the polity. It's in the nature of elections. You bring up the dregs, you bring up issues, you bring up sentiments. The strategy is to prepare the voter, prep him, so to speak. And then you hope that you've landed behind a particular candidate or particular party. So that's basic. What we're doing now is doing more than that. We are actually creating a situation where the very survival of this country is at stake. And it's serious. It's very serious. Today, the Northern Elders Forum is releasing a statement, principally saying a lot of the rhetorics, a lot of the comments that are coming from our colleagues from the southern part of the country, socio-cultural groups, Fenifere, or Hannes Indigo, Pandaf. I don't want to use the word irresponsible against elders, it is wrong. But it is unbecoming of elders. Comments like, if you dare zone if any political party, any, and we have more than 20-something political parties, zones gives a ticket to a northerner, nobody in the south is going to vote for you. There will be no end, there will be no future for this country unless the presidency comes in. There will be trouble if the elections go this way. These are extremely dangerous comments to be making by people who have seen the best part of this country, who have benefited from peaceful elections and peaceful transitions. And suddenly now, at the twilight of their ages, all you hear from them are threats and intimidation. It is very, very dangerous. A lot of people take them seriously. We have enough problems as it is. This is a country that is going to an election in the next few months, facing quite possibly the biggest set of interrelated security challenges that we've never faced. You have massive insecurity all over the country, all over the country. You have people bringing up new sentiments and linking them up. You have an administration that appears virtually resigned to just sitting out its time. You have a vacuum. And you have criminals who think they have the run of the country. They can go anywhere, they can move anywhere, then they can do anything. So, and then you have a whole army of people coming from nowhere saying, I want to be president. And you have to wonder, do they know something we don't? Because in truth, well, with my very little experience in public service at a very high level, I know how difficult it is to run this country. And this was in the good old days. I retired more than 10 years ago. And this country is considerably worse than it was then. And I keep wondering, all these people coming out, is there a political game being played? Or do they seriously think that Nigeria is the type of country you can just hand over to them because they have 2 billion or 3 billion naira? Because the 100 million naira just to buy the form is nothing compared to what they will spend. Where did they get all that money? What do they want to govern this country?
Doc, let me take you back to 2014, 2015. In the lead up to that election, the rhetoric was also near along this line. Let me unkindly quote our current president, who warned about the blood of the monkey and baboon mixing. I also want to remember the new PDP, that moved and joined and created the new APC, the current APC, who insisted that Jonathan cannot morally seek another term, that it was the turn of the North. That was why I asked you that question. Must we hit off the polity? Must we repeat those things that create tension?
Well, just a slight correction. I was part of the campaign in 2013, 2014, all the way to the victory of then General President Muhammadu Buhari. And on a number of occasions, I've spoken about the baboon and dog. Yes, it's a Hausa proverb. It says "Karejini Birijini," and I don't normally have much to defend President Buhari these days. After 7 years of his leadership of this country. But on this particular, let me explain exactly. It's been explained many times. He was asked what is likely to happen if this election, that election, was rigged. And he said it will be Karejini Birijini. It will be a bloodied dog fighting a bloodied baboon, which means there will be trouble. Now, if you and I are running, and someone asks you, what if they rig the election against you? What is likely to be your response? Now that comment fell perfectly into the hands of people who are saying, the man is threatening blood. Remember before then, there is a backdrop to that. In 2011, there was a massive post-election violence.
There was.
Massive. And so the spectre of violence in 2013, 2014, 2015 was real. And when you have one of the candidates saying if they died, it would be the baboon and the blooded baboon and the blooded dog. So, again, we go back to this issue. You would never have an election without some of these scary rhetorics. But going beyond that, I can't see how we can transit with the same old politicians playing the same old games. It's all about them, not about the country. It's all about their ambition. It's all very, very rich people competing with money against each other. It's not about people where we don't have competing policies. We don't have competing ideologies. We don't have competing perspectives about how to deal with insecurity, how to deal with a collapsed economy, how to deal with jobs for young people, how to bring the country together. You don't hear about that at all. It's about this candidate and that candidate and this candidate. That's all there is to do. Now you could say this, okay, this is consistent with the stage where we are. This is a pitch for the primaries. They are paying some people to buy forms so that in the event that there's a consensus, at least you have 5, 6, 7 candidates that you bought forms for. But I worry even for that. Look at the kind of people who are buying forms. Some of them are not fit enough to be village heads. Yeah, they've held offices.
Doc, please, I'm a village man. Don't reduce us. A bad person is a bad. Don't bring a bad man to the village to look after me.
My brother, I swear to you, in a village, people who have become governors, 2-term governors, and now want to be president, if they were asked by villagers if they would be their village heads, they would reject them. Because in the village, our standards for responsibility, for accountability, for leadership is different. And you don't buy some of those positions. I am telling you, a village head has a lot more legitimacy and respect.
That's what I'm protesting.
I know. I apologize to you. I apologize to you, but I could go lower than a village. And I would say, even in the tiny little community, if you ask a Nigerian who should lead, he will tell you. He will tell you, go to that person. We trust him. We know him. But the higher you go on the political ladder, the less
accountable,
the quality of leadership decreases, the moral fiber of the leaders. Look at the people who are competing, who are asking us to trust them with power. Tell me how many of them will genuinely show you, both on the basis of their character, on the basis of their experience, on the basis of the proven records to who have held challenging positions. How on earth do you convince people? 10 governors from all the parties are asking for mandates to become Nigeria's presidents. 9 governors, 8 governors, former vice presidents, former senate presidents, former party leaders. All these people are saying, give me Nigeria. To do what with it? What will you tell us? What will you do for us? Yes, you are rich. You have to have been rich, because how else can you afford just 100 million just for reform? Then you bring out billions to compete. Now you buy the country. In the end, we fight each other, kill each other. You bought Nigeria. And it's yours to do as you wish. And we haven't heard a word about what makes you different from all these other people lining up saying, no, it's me, no, it's me, no, it's me. Nigerians are likely to be taken for a ride. And the problem really is that this whole crowd will not allow us to really sit down and sift through the dregs that are coming up to say, we think that we can narrow it down to just 2 or 3 people. And what all these people are saying, go, maybe it's because it's our turn. It's actually a ploy to create advantages for a particular part of the country, or for someone. Otherwise, you're not governed. If you make the case, for instance, that it must be an Igbo president, he's not going to govern Igbo people. He's going to govern Nigeria. And the man in Koranamoda has a say in terms of whether he trusts him to deal with the issue of banditry in Zamfara State. The man in Yobe has a say. So you don't want someone who will just simply become president because he's Igbo. And you don't want somebody who will become a president because he's an Northerner. How is he going to deal with IPOB? IPOB will say, okay, so you refuse to give us an Igbo president, we'll show you. What are you going to fight IPOB with? This military that we have, that has been...
You just raised something. I'm sorry to interject so quickly. You raised something that I want us to interrogate. Just last week, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, made a statement that confused me. No, that worried me. He said that some elements within the military were collaborating, working with and working for insurgents and bandits. In other words, our security institution has elements that are now working against the Nigerian state. If this statement by the Chief of Defense Staff is critically looked into, 1, are you sure that the Nigerian nation state is safe enough at all to conduct the 2023 election? 2, what manner of a nation will the next president inherit?
Well, if that statement was made by General Erabo, then we would have very little ground to doubt it. And it amounts to a massive, massive indictment of forces under him. And in a way, it indicts him. If he knows that we have military people who are conniving with bandits and kidnappers in the bush, creating a parallel government, because that's really what it is. Once organized crime begins to acquire a lot of money, either through violence, kidnapping, or through drugs, and we've seen it in South America. They make so much money, they take up so much space in the lives of citizens, they become parallel governments. Then eventually, they take over the country. We saw it in Colombia, we saw it in a number of other countries, and we are going in that direction. When you have to pay millions and millions and millions by the day just to retrieve people from kidnappers, that means you're sending a huge amount of money. Money gives them access to weapons. Weapons gives them access to more people. More people gives them access to more weapons. They take over territory.
More power.
If the people sent to fight them are now part of the problem, you really have to wonder. And your question is valid. what would it take? What kind of leader should we vote in who can look at the issue of banditry, look at the root causes? Why is this phenomenon expanding beyond anything? Is it that the Nigerian security system has collapsed? Is it that it is collapsing to a point where it's just incapable of dealing with it? Crime is expanding faster than the capacities we have to control it. Violence has, the state's monopoly over the means of violence has been taken away by someone else. Just this morning I was reading about a group, Ansaru. Everybody has known about Ansaru in the Middle Belt, in North Central, in parts of Kaduna. Ansaru has control of villages, a lot of villages in Kaduna. On Salah Day, they went around distributing Salah biscuits and doing displays of vehicles. Villagers were coming out to cheer. Ansaru has been literally accepted as heroes because they chased Fulani bandits. And Ansaru is now exercising control over the lives of citizens. So huge parts of Nigeria are being taken over by armed criminals. Where is our military? And we have to keep asking this question. We used to have one of the most formidable militaries in the world. Is it still the same Nigerian military? Has something happened to that military in the last few months? Has it been mismanaged by a political leadership which doesn't care about how it deals with issues? It has been underfunded, undermanned, undermoraled, abused by its leadership, has it lost all its professional ethics? Something is wrong. We may not be told the full details of what is wrong with our military, but clearly, if a military keeps losing a war, even if it's not all its wars, and in fairness to them, maintaining internal law and order and security, that's for the police. But our military is thrown into every problem. And the enemy knows this. You move soldiers, 500 soldiers from the northeast, you move them to Zamfara and Kaduna.
The vacuum is created.
You create a vacuum there. 2 days ago, they attacked Chibok, killed people. They can track every movement of our military. So just rebuilding the basic structures of the state, the military, a leadership that is accountable to the Nigerian people, a leadership that is committed, and more importantly, and this is why we are consistent about not electing an ethnic or regional leader. You must have a Nigerian president who will treat the bandit in Zamfara as his problem the same way he will treat the IPOP man who slaughtered a couple 2 days ago, a man and a woman, a soldier, 2 soldiers, just simply for being soldiers, slaughtered them, IPOP people. You must elect a president who is, wherever he comes from, who is willing to fight this horrendous theft of our crude that is going on in the Niger Delta, no matter where he comes from, because that's our commonwealth that is being stolen. You must have a president who, irrespective of where he comes from, has the same courage and commitment to fight the bandit, the kidnapper, and the Boko Haram. You must never have a president who will draw a line and say, well, you guys have lived with that problem for so long. It's not my problem. You Northerners are full of trouble. See Boko Haram there, see bandits here, see kidnappers. And that's why we worry in the north. What kind of president is going to come to power?
Let me take you back to Buhari. I hope you don't mind that. One of President Buhari's strongest credentials while coming to power was his security credential. A top-class military general, a hard-heeled operative before he became a general. Are you not disappointed that your choice was wrong?
President Buhari
has lost his
yes,
military training.
he ceased to be a president, like a general in 19. 1940.
And no, Dr. Ahmed, I don't agree with you. You are a communications expert. At 110 years, will you fail to be what you are today?
Yeah, I would be. I hope I would be there.
Okay,
But
but
the point was that he became a military head of state. Was dealing and bringing an end to the issue of militancy in the Niger Delta. By the time he became president, we were exporting just about 800,000 barrels of crude a day. The rest of it was being stolen or sabotaged or whatever. He clearly understood, unless you fix militancy, you cannot allow Nigeria to export the maximum amount of crude that it can, and therefore bring in revenue and then use it for development. This is a president who had the vision and the foresight to identify a problem even before he became president. The moment he became president, he set in motion his agenda on dealing with Niger Delta. And I was marginally involved in that kind of thing. It's incredible. I hope one day somebody will write the history of that, how the kind of negotiations that we went through, the kind of difficulties he had through. But he succeeded. He brought militancy virtually to an end. The amnesty program, NDDC, Ministry of Knowledge, all those were political solutions to a security problem. But what has President Buhari done? He met Boko Haram. He's going to leave Boko Haram. I'm not praying for that. But from all indications, Boko Haram will outlive President Buhari. What has he done to deal with it? If the military strategy wasn't working, what has he done to create an option?
let me add another fear to you, and this is genuine fear. In the latest video released by those who attacked the Kaduna-bound train from Abuja, they made a comment that is frightening. They said, the government knows what we want.
I heard it.
Is there something different from what we have been told? Is there a disappointment of any sort from those saying, this government knows what we want? Are you not upset by that comment?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know whether they know. I don't know what they meant by that. And I'm a bit reluctant to indulge in conspiracy theories. There are people who would say, oh, there was a deal between government and them. Who either them are, I don't know. Certainly, clearly, these are Boko Haram people. If they had sent a message to the government and the government is looking at that message or dealing with it, I don't know. What I do know is that that singular act of attacking the train, taking large numbers of people, keeping them, sending periodic pictures, says an awful lot about the incapacity of this government. Today will be their 38th day in the hands of those people. And we pray that this will not be another Chibok incident or incidents of schoolgirls or school children who spend months in the hands of this. We pray. Because clearly 38 days is long enough for someone to have traced people of that caliber, visibility, importance, because we have focused attention on this. How can you? And then the strategic importance of the Kaduna train, the Kaduna-Abuja train. I drove from Kaduna yesterday to come and do this interview with you. And I'm telling you, you ask people to pray for you before you leave Kaduna or Abuja to be on that road. And every minute you're on that road, you look around and you're worried. Every single day, every single minute, every single kilometer. There are people who would buy a ticket from Abuja if they're coming to Zaria or Kaduna. They will buy a ticket from Abuja, they will fly to Kano. When they get to Kano, then they will board a vehicle and drive all the way from Kano to Zaria or Kaduna, rather than take this 2-hour train. Now, there's a contract on Abuja, Kaduna-Abuja way road. They hadn't fixed that road for all these years. It's bad. Substantial parts of it is bad. They didn't fix the road. They built a train in an extremely hazardous environment. Nobody had the foresight, or if they did, they didn't do anything about it, that if you ever attack that train, you would have caused a major rupture on artery, which is strategic to this country. They tried it a few months ago. People didn't pay attention. They attacked that train. They tried to bomb the rail. It didn't work. This time they did it. Now, what the attack on the Abuja train tells you.
How vulnerable we are as a country. Is there anything terrorists will not do or cannot do in this country? If they are still holding these people now, and our military is there, and all we hear about is we really can't attack them because they're using the people
as human shield.
When are they going to stop using people as human shield? So does that mean that they will stay there? If they are saying government knows what we want, then we have to say, government, please.
And these people. Let me see where there's a nexus. I do not know whether I'm not being simplistic in the analysis I'm going to involve you in now. Boko Haram once said, we have appointed Muhammad Buhari as a representative negotiation with the Nigerian government. It did. The president had warned when he was candidate Buhari that if you killed a member of Boko Haram, you were killing a Northerner or a Muslim. And now, no, not even now, the president himself, I've quoted him on this program more than 6 times, had said that insurgency, Boko Haram, is now what has turned to be bandits. That it is one of their new strategies. And now, the people have said, you know what we want. Doc, I'm just using statistics. I have not initiated any of it. They nominated him. He had said if you kill them, you were clear nothing.
As a potential negotiator.
Good. That he was their preferred negotiator. Isn't, if you connect these dots, isn't there a nexus? Isn't there a relationship? And I'm going to ask you a question subsequently. But let me hold my peace at this point.
All I can say is that the spectacular failure to deal with the Boko Haram insurgency, either militarily or through other means, shows you that we had an administration that had no The political will to fight Boko Haram wasn't there. The understanding of the nature of the problem which Boko Haram
presented was very weak. The administration was never active enough to continuously consider other options. And tragically, the more the state failed to deal with Boko Haram, the more Boko Haram grew. Now, the spin-off of Boko Haram, I don't think that the nexus between Boko Haram didn't create banditry and insecurity.
I'm quoting Mr. President.
Well, I think even here, if actually he said that, I think his understanding of the genesis of banditry and kidnapping is faulty. Because you and I sat in this same place, we discussed the genesis and the root causes.
And I'm coming to it. I'm returning to it.
And I told you it was mismanaged. From a tiny problem that could have been handled even at the village level, we allowed it to become the monster that it is. And there were clear critical stages where we lost control of this thing. This is not a thinking government. It had never been a thinking government. And I don't think they ever tried to create a unit or some capacity to think through a problem. As far as they were concerned, everything was a security or a law and order issue, and what you do is you throw the military after it. And you know, people still don't understand the tragedy that is the second strategy in this country. Where is our Nigeria police? What happened to the police? Internal security is primarily the responsibility.
We had raised it on this program with you.
Where is the police? The police was actually declining in terms of its capacity gradually and was becoming just men and women in uniform. And NSAS did something to policing as an institution that still this country really doesn't understand. Another thing that a thinking government could have done would have been to say, let's analyze what this banditry is. Let's analyze how it came to be. What does it represent? Is it a grievance? Is it a frustration? Is it a new phenomenon that is feeding off Boko Haram's example that it can fight the Nigerian state to stand still, or it can actually defeat the Nigerian state? Or is it simply, how did the Fulani man who a few years ago just had a stick and a horde of cattle now wield AK-47 and can kidnap VIPs and their families and say to the Nigerian state, go to hell, do what I want or I keep these people? Something has gone wrong. And when you see that kind of thing, and again, I keep going back to when I worked in government, I worked even in under the military. The military, when the military were in power, their major priority was security and law and order. They wanted stability. They just want everybody to sit down and keep peace. And for issues like governance, they would go out and get a few civilians, and they would rely on the civil service. This administration never really had a thinking capacity. And it's amazing, because they did inherit a fairly good system, but they let it go. And you had a president who kept thinking, once I give my instructions, that is enough. If there's a failure, ask the people I'm asking. And every day they use this incredibly, virtually the same words. Go after them, be ruthless with them, deal with them. And his people who release statements don't even change the language they use.
Go back to their previous statement.
They will say president orders military to be ruthless with Boko. What else are they supposed to be? These people are ruthless with us. What else are they supposed to be? Go after them. Go after them. Deal with them. Deal with them. And they've been dealing with them, and they've been dealing with us. The harder you lean on the bandit and the kidnapper and Boko Haram, the harder they lean on the population. You needed to have broken this cycle a long time ago. And I'm sure somewhere along the line, the military must have had the courage to say to Mr. President, sir, this problem cannot be solved
by boots and guns.
Yes, because no problem is ever solved by boots and guns. What boots and guns do is that they weaken the opposition to a point where
they're forced to negotiate.
Yes. But we never got to that stage because the other side also has boots and guns. And they're winning. And if they're winning, what else do? We don't have their weapons. We don't have their morale. We don't have their resources. And we are accountable. They are not accountable.
They are not.
And the world is now holding us back and saying, you cannot have Tucano, you cannot have this type of weapon, because your military are fighting a war in the same way that Boko Haram is fighting. And our military is saying, how else are we supposed to fight?
Because that's how they know. And
Because they don't have respect. They cannot. These are not conventional military. They do not fight the same way that military fight. And now if Americans say, don't bomb them using Tucanos unless you change their name from bandits, that's all you do. You just change the name. You change the
terrorists.
You now call them terrorists. If you call them terrorists, then you can bomb them. Unless you call them terrorists, the Tucanos stay on the ground. So somebody somewhere doesn't really understand what this is about. And then you have more and more of these bandits taking more and more Nigerian territory. So all I would say is, I don't know, there are a lot of conspiracy theories.